So 10 years ago, Disney bought Star Wars. Or well, they bought Lucasfilm. But 10 years ago, on October 30, the deal was signed between Bob Iger and George Lucas for $4.05 billion to sell Lucasfilm to Disney. And yeah, so 10 years ago, well, I'm a few days early, but still 10 years ago, Disney bought Star Wars. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So, it's been a crazy 10 years. Like, so much has happened in that time. It's crazy to think about all of it, but I'm going to try and pack it all into this video today to tell you about it. You know, I think a lot of people focus specifically on the sequel trilogy of movies, but there's a lot more to cover with this whole trilogy. So, let us begin. So we have to go back to 2012. Star Wars was in a bad place, admittedly. The prequels were not very well liked by most of the time. George Lucas had an idea for a sequel trilogy, but he ended up not going through with it for personal reasons. And ultimately, Star Wars just was not doing well. There was a TV show planned called Star Wars Underworld and a couple of other games like Star Wars 1313, but they weren't going very well, and ultimately they were canceled when Disney took over. So whether or not that's better for worse, not really sure, but neither of them were going very well in development. So when Bob Iger, who was then the CEO of Disney, signed this deal, they immediately started working on Episode 7, which was going to be their flagship new Star Wars movie and start off all of this Disney Star Wars thing. However, they did first make Star Wars Rebels, which, for many fans, became a fan favorite. It's a bit more niche, and not everyone's the biggest fan of it, but it definitely has its fan base. So many people do like that. But the main thing is that they immediately started working on Episode 7. Clone Wars did get messed up as it was started before the Disney takeover, and its then final season, Season 6, got kind of split in half and then just kind of ended abruptly. And eventually it would come back with Season 7, but we'll talk about that later. Now, when this news came out, there was big news at the time, and it was a bit funny to some, considering the idea of Disney taking over Star Wars. Now, they had taken over Marvel in the years before, but still, it seemed kind of silly for them to take over Star Wars. I remember specifically a bunch of memes of saying, oh, hey, Princess Leia? Yeah, she's a Disney princess now. And there was all sorts of things that went with that. It was a good time, but, plenty of, weird mixed reactions before any actual products came out. That being, Episode 7 in Star Wars Rebels. Just a lot of interesting reactions people had. And I remember very fondly those Princess Leia memes. They were pretty funny. So Star Wars Rebels came out in 2014, and then in 2015, following that, we got Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And it was actually pretty well received at the time. It's gotten more hated over time as sequel hate, got bigger and bigger on the internet. But overall, most people liked it and said, this was alright. It wasn't the greatest thing of all time, but many people were just alright with it. And even today, you ask many fans, they'll say that Episode 7 was alright. So Episode 7 received well, and the future of Star Wars looked pretty good under Disney. And, there were some people who were still hesitant and saying, nah, this is crap. But at the time, it was doing pretty well. This was then immediately followed the next year by Rogue One, which many fans still consider to be one of the better Star Wars movies. And it was big. It was very big for visuals and for story. It was just well liked by many, and it just came out of nowhere. No one was expecting a movie about the Death Star plans, but it was just really good. And so many fans did end up liking this movie, and it did well. And also, it's the first time we got to see Darth Vader being scary in that hallway scene. Absolutely amazing scene. I know myself and many others really liked that scene. It was very good. One of the first times we got to see Darth Vader being Darth Vader. It was very cool. Oh boy. And then after that, we got The Last Jedi. Now, The Last Jedi obviously is, The Last Jedi. It was quite divisive and still has forever divided the fan base into the people who say it was alright and the people who absolutely despise it. And this is where sequel hate truly took off. It was after this people started going back and saying, Episode 7, yeah, that was awful too, and Episode 8 is just worse. It's awful. This whole Disney thing is awful. Ah, we all hate Disney, blah, 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 blah. That's when it all started with Last Jedi, because, well, Rian Johnson decided to make a movie that was going to upset people. It was bound to happen. It really couldn't have been avoided. So whatever your opinion of this movie is, this was a very important moment in Disney Star Wars. 2017's The Last Jedi forever changed Star Wars. Interestingly enough, Solo came out a few months later, Solo: A Star Wars Story, which many people just forgot about because a lot of fans decided to boycott this movie after The Last Jedi. Now that may seem petty, and it was, because Solo was actually a pretty alright movie on its own, but many fans were just upset with Disney and decided we're going to boycott this film. And it's still one of the worst performing Star Wars movies to date because no one went and saw it. I went and saw it, and I enjoyed myself. It was a fun movie. You got to see young Han Solo. He went and met Lando. It's an alright movie, but it just did not do well. And it was the first time Disney had a movie, being Star Wars, that didn't do well. So I guess the message went across that way, but still, it was a very weird thing that so many Star Wars fans boycotted this movie. And it was weird. And then the next year, in 2019, we got Disney Plus, which has other things, but specifically with Star Wars talking about here. It came out with The Mandalorian, which is, well, The Mandalorian. Season 1 was just, it did amazingly well, and it brought so many new fans to Star Wars. Many people watched it who weren't Star Wars fans, and fell in love with it, and then were introduced to Star Wars as a whole. Mandalorian has done amazing things for Star Wars, not just Baby Yoda merchandise alone, which was a large part of it, but still, The Mandalorian is a very good show, which brought many new fans to Star Wars. So that must be recognized and praised, as Disney made an amazing show that brought so many new fans into Star Wars. So a very, very good thing that Disney did, making The Mandalorian on Disney+. However, later in 2019, we got The Rise of Skywalker, which, well, was The Rise of Skywalker. If you know what I mean, it's very, very disliked. Some people like it, but most people just agree that it is a bad movie. Anyway, in the following year, 2020, which is best not to think about it too much, but just that period in time, is when we got Clone Wars Season 7. Finally, it was announced in the years before, but finally we got a conclusion to the Clone Wars story, and it was pretty good. That whole middle thing was a bit weird with Ahsoka and those sisters, but overall Season 7 was pretty good, and it was, well received by fans, and finally concluded this story that many were hoping to see concluded. And then the following year, we got The Bad Batch. This whole period of time after Rise of Skywalker, we haven't had any movies since. So since 2019, we haven't had any new Star Wars movies. We've had a lot of things on Disney+. So we got The Bad Batch, and then we got, Mandalorian Season 2, and the Book of Boba Fett, which did not do very well. Then we had Kenobi, which disappointed a lot of people, myself included. And now we have Andor, which I will admit is very good. And, it's very nice to see that this, we have Andor. It's just good, okay? I know IR Smart won't shut up about it. I agree with him. It's pretty darn good. So, yeah. That's pretty much where we are at now. There were some other things, like I think, what else? Oh, of course, there are books and comics. I haven't gotten much into them. I know they're out there, though, and I know they have their fans. Disney has done a lot of books and comic runs for Star Wars, and I can't speak too much to them. I can't speak much to them because I don't know much about them, but I think there are some dedicated fans. Also, it'd be wrong to talk about Disney Star Wars and not talk about the video games, because we got, both the Battlefront games, Jedi Fallen Order, the Lego Star Wars game. We've had some pretty good games. Now, Battlefront 2017, Battlefront 2, didn't do very well at launch, but it became a very, very good game, and one that many fans adore. So, very cool Star Wars games. We should get more, and we are going to get more in the future, but plenty of great Star Wars games that we got under Disney. So my point in making this video is to show that, it's been 10 years of Disney Star Wars, and a lot of people are probably going to focus on just, oh, the sequels were bad. Which, hey, I'm with you. I'm right with you there. But there was a lot of other great things that have happened under Disney in Star Wars. So don't discredit them altogether. Are they handling Star Wars very well? We can argue about that. There's a lot that they have not done well. But overall, what they've done for Star Wars, you can't deny that Star Wars is better now than it's ever been. There are so many more fans, and Star Wars really could have died off if Disney didn't buy it. Because George wasn't going to do much else with it. The plans that they had weren't going anywhere. So, and now you can look at how many more Star Wars fans there are. It's more of a common thing to talk about Star Wars with people. More people know about it, more people, will recognize it. It was more of a nerd niche thing. Like, how many people talk about Star Trek? It was at that level of, just nerdy, no one cares about it. Now it's one of the biggest things up with Marvel and all that stuff. So, yeah, Disney has done a lot for Star Wars. And for that, I think we should appreciate it. So anyway, yeah, that was my point with this video. Disney has done a lot of great things for Star Wars. So, yeah. Also, we're getting the Indiana Jones movie, which is also under Lucasfilm. But I'm mainly here to talk about Star Wars. But, Lucasfilm and Star Wars. They're basically the same thing at this point. So, yeah. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I helped you to appreciate Disney just that little bit more. So, anyway, I have been IR Dark. This is my video. Also, for any of you who are wondering why I'm not dead anymore, yeah, so I met this Night Sister lady called Marin. She's kind of hot. Anyway, she brought me back to life. Yeah, we're gonna go on a second date. That whole, it was a really weird whole experience of her bringing me back to life. but I think we really hit it off, so I'm gonna see her again sometime soon. She said she had this other boyfriend a while ago called, like, Cal or something, I don't know. But she doesn't care about him anymore, so we're together now. Yeah, guys, I got a girlfriend. She's a night sister. Yeah, she's all like goth and stuff. She's like right up my alley. She's pretty cool. So anyway, yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I should probably end the video. I don't know how Ira Smart ends his videos, but I'm gonna end my video by saying my catchphrase, which is, it's IR Dark in Time.